Valpolicella is a region in the far northeast of Italy, and they have thousands and thousands of years of winemaking tradition here. It was actually the ancient Greeks that first brought a winemaking technique here to make wine out of dehydrated grapes, in other words, raisins. And these sweet, high-alcohol wines, known as Ricciotto di Valpolicella, were famous in their time throughout Europe. But by the 20th century, this style of wine was falling out of demand, and Valpolicella was in rapid decline. Vineyards were being ripped up, and wineries were closing. So with nothing left to lose, a few industrious winemakers in the region decided to try something different. There were stories about a dry version of this raisin wine that the Greeks had discarded long ago because they thought it was a mistake. Needless to say, the results were pretty amazing. The wine was so intense and pleasantly bitter that they called it Amarone, which is Italian for big bitter. Amarone was and is a huge success, and it's essentially the wine that saved the Valpolicella region. And today, these are some of the most desirable and loved red wines in the world. Now, both of these highly rated wines come from the Classico zone of Valpolicella, which is the original medieval region where wine has been made for centuries. And both of these wines are made from the traditional Valpolicella grapes, which are Corvina, Corvinone, Rondinella, and Molinara. So this 2017 here is made by a family that have been in Valpolicella for 7 generations, and they were one of the first to make an Amarone in 1958. The wine is made from organic grapes from one of Valpolicella's only cru vineyards. And this is interesting because cru is a term that they typically use in France to designate a single vineyard of superior quality. The grapes that go into this Amarone are dried for 100 days. And that creates this really savory wine with flavors of cherry, exotic spices, and especially dark chocolate, which is a hallmark of all great Amarones. The second wine in this series is a 2016 vintage. This comes from another family-owned winery. They've been making Valpolicellas since 1958, and the grapes for this Classico grow in the alpine foothills of Valpolicella at about 1,400 feet above sea level, and they're dried for 120 days. I found this one to be a little bit more warm and brooding with these baked cherry flavors, licorice, tobacco, and interestingly, sage. In Italy, they refer to Amarone as vino da meditazione, which means a meditation wine. In other words, it's so deep and intense, no food necessary, you can just sit and meditate with it. But if you are going to pair your Amarone with food, it needs to be equally as intense. Things like aged cheddar cheeses and blue cheeses are great because they have a really strong flavor. Game meats are classic, and I've heard people say that liver and onions is delicious with an Amarone. So we're 5 months into the Premium Wine Club at this point, and already we've explored such a huge range of styles and flavors. I hope you've been happy with the selections, and I hope you're enjoying the journey so far. I can't wait to break into these Amarones in a few weeks and taste them, hopefully together with you at the live tasting. So I'll see you there. And until then, take care of yourselves, and happy holidays too. Cheers.